So, I'm what stands between you and dessert. My role today is to make you think differently about your for sures and change them into what ifs. So let's not just try to predict our future, let's try to invent it. Couple of things. You are experts at what you do. I'm somebody that deals with lots of companies, looks at things differently, and just wants you to take a different look at how you may be doing business in the future. You're going to get about 100 ideas. There's no way you can keep up with all of them today. My goal is for you to grasp one or two or three and have an aha moment. Let's try it together. Everybody say aha. Now say it with feeling. Now say it angrily. Now say it funny. All comes out the same, doesn't it? It's an aha moment. Aha, you take a deep breath, it goes up to your head, and you feel good about it. But the truth of the matter is, all of us know what happens when we have a bad aha, and that is the F word. Now, I know lots of you are going to sit here and say, Jim is telling us about the F word. Well, the F word has different meaning to all kinds of people. For instance, the captain of the Titanic ran upstairs and said, where did all this effing water come from? The mayor of Hiroshima, what was that effing noise? Custer said, where did all these effing Indians come from? Now get your mind out of the gutter, you guys. I don't know what you think the F word means, but in this organization, that F word means bam. But in my world, that F word means fear. Fear is the F word. We are afraid to make mistakes. We are afraid to take a leap of faith. We are afraid to do something differently. I'm here to tell you, I started doing things differently when my doctor, in a regular examination, looked at me when I walked into the room fully clothed and said, Jim, you look like crap. I said, really? You went to medical school for that diagnosis? He said, you're all flushed and you're sweaty. What's going on? I said, well, I've walked up 3 flights of stairs. I brought you a case of wine, and that's why I'm sweating. He goes, we should do a stress test. Now, for those of you that have never done a stress test, that's where they put you on a treadmill, and there's one person that's looking at a TV monitor, which is really your life. And the treadmill starts very slowly, and you start to feel very confident, and then the treadmill starts going a little faster, and then the treadmill starts going uphill, and it goes uphill, and it starts going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Fear should not bother anybody. Fear, ladies and gentlemen, is where you jump off the edge of the stage, because if you don't leap, nothing happens. My friend Les Brown says, leap and the net will appear. I said, Les, what happens if the net doesn't appear? He goes, you're dead. It doesn't make any difference. When I was doing that stress test and I failed, I looked over and there were 10 people looking at that screen, and they were all shaking their head. And they said to me, we're going to suggest an angiogram. Now, an angiogram is where they take a wire that starts in the back corner of that room, and they put it on your inside thigh, and they run it up to take a look at your heart. And they came back and they said, Mr. Feldman, one artery has been clogged up and scarred over since you were 2 or 3 years old. The second one is 97% shut down. The third one is carrying all the blood, so on Monday we decided we're going to do a triple bypass. And I said, we were not in that meeting. We are going to go home and think about it. That was a Friday night. Saturday night, an elephant sat on my chest. Numbness, sweats, whole 9 yards. I called 911, and the paramedics were there in less than 2 minutes. Now, normally you wouldn't be surprised at that, but I live on the 66th floor of a high-rise. When you're on the 66th floor of a high-rise, you can't get from the bottom to the top in less than 2 minutes. So being an ATAP personality, I kept saying, how'd you get here? How'd you get here? And they said, Mr. Feldman, lay down. I said, I'm not laying down until you tell me. Mr. Feldman, wait, I'm not laying down until you tell me how you got here. All right? We were on the 68th floor, and we walked down 2 flights of stairs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's when you start believing in a higher being. Somebody was looking out for me. That Monday, I talked everyone out of the triple bypass, and I made the promise that I would change my life. And I've done that. I changed my life out of fear. Now, some of you are going to say, well, what do you mean by that? What about the failure, the examination, the adjustment, and the recollection? Let me show you what I was facing approximately 15 years ago when I was delivering a speech to the hospitality industry. I transformed fear into action. All over the world, and I'm often upgraded to a better room in the hotel. And in the hotel, one of the amenities that I'm often to find is a bathrobe. The bathrobe has a label on it that says, one size fits all. Now maybe they haven't seen this size, but the bathrobe says, one size fits all. So I decided I would bring you one of the bathrobes that is going to satisfy me as a customer. So here it was, laid on the bed, nicely laid out, and I put on my bathrobe after I've taken my shower. You may notice right off the bat that it doesn't close. Well, I've learned to call down to management and say, I'm sorry, one size does not fit all. Send up a bigger bathrobe. We don't have bigger bathrobes. Well, you have bigger people. Yes, but we don't have bigger bathrobes. But let me talk to the manager. He's busy right now. Well, I've learned that you really have to make a point in the hotel business. So I order room service. And I answer wearing my robe. It's pretty amazing how quickly the manager's on the phone. He says, what's the problem? I go, I'm cold. I got a draft. He said, this woman went screaming down the hall. I said, hey, one size doesn't fit all. I gave a speech at a group of hoteliers, and they all went, oh, don't be silly. Can't have that kind of problem. So I was at a hotel in Puerto Rico. And on the bed was a bathrobe laid out for presentation. Looked at the label. What do you think it said? One size fits all. Put on the bathrobe, knowing what to expect. And guess what happened? The largest bathrobe ever made. As a matter of fact, it's a 21-foot tie string. I don't think there's a human being that's this big, but they must have told someone, we have the largest human being coming here, and he's going to order room service. We don't want a repeat of what happened at the other hotels. And I'm talking to myself in this bathrobe going, man, this is really cool. Where did they get this big bathrobe? And as I reached up to get a glass of water, I saw how there's 2 logos. They sewed 2 bathrobes together to make it work. This is where customer service and employee empowerment didn't quite get it. I'm big, but I'm not that big. So now I go to another hotel about a month later. This time I don't know what to expect, because word's out. And there's a bathrobe laying on the bed. And I do my inspection, and of course it says, one size fits all. And I put on my bathrobe. And guess what? It fits. It fits quite well. And as I'm admiring the way this bathrobe fits, from the El San Juan Hotel and Casino, I might add, the phone rings. Mr. Feldman, I am the seamstress of the hotel. It is my job to see that that robe fits you perfectly. If you'd like to have me take it in, smart move, lengthen it, even a smarter move, I will be up immediately. No, it fits perfectly, I said. Is there anything I could do to make your robe fit better? No, I'm quite happy, thank you. Here is my beeper. Please call me if there's anything I could do. Ladies and gentlemen, as I hung up the phone, I noticed that I was quite satisfied. So in that short clip, we've seen several things. Number one, the quality of the film is obviously not high def. Number two, the solution was not vetted with a lot of people. Obviously, sewing two hotel robes together was a good solution, but you end up with two logos, etc. And interestingly enough, today that problem is easier to solve because you would have more than one size robe. Not true. Here we are years later, and I've decided that my real mission in life is to change the world. And to change the world, we need to focus, another F word. The focus is very simple. One size does not fit all. When I finished that stress test and that angiogram, I was told that if I didn't change my lifestyle very quickly, I was going to be back. And because of the fact that one was closed up, one was 97% gone, they were concerned that I might not even have enough time between the 911 call and the trip to the hospital. And it was in that moment that fear took over as my F word. And I decided I would focus. And I hired a personal trainer, and I trained for the next stress test. And when I took the next stress test 6 months later, I passed. And I was elated. I was jumping for joy. And the cardiologist came in and he said, "What are you so happy about?" I said, 6 months ago, you wanted to do a triple bypass. I didn't have it done. I've now passed. I mean, I'm doing great. He goes, "Based on your weight then and your weight now, you have lost 8 pounds in 6 months. You think that's progress?" And I go, No. The progress is I passed the test. He says, "Well, let me give you something else to think about. You have high cholesterol. You have diabetes. You have high blood sugar. If you do not have a heart attack, if you do not have a stroke, you are a textbook candidate for amputation and or blindness. Now, are you still happy?" Every now and then, we all have to listen to an outsider that has an unbiased perspective. And that's what I have become, an outside perspective. So 3 things are going to happen today. Number one, there's going to be a lot of ideas. Some of them you're going to agree with, some of them you won't. If you agree with 100% of what I say here today, I have failed, because I will push the envelope. Number 2, every idea that I put up here, you can use immediately. You can start making those changes in your life, in your business, and replicate those solutions to drive more revenue. And I am all about revenue. This is not a drill. We are not a not-for-profit. This is not a hobby. Making chocolates for me is a hobby. It is turning into a business accidentally. It's turning into an accidental business because I was sending chocolates to my clients, and now they're calling up and ordering it. I had no intentions of getting into the chocolate business, but when they said, "Whatever it costs, send us a bill." Well, for those of you that know me, I always start with what I think is the maximum that somebody will pay. Why? Because people do not default up. They come back down. So I got a phone call from my longest standing client, which is Toyota. Toyota built my business. The woman called, she says, "Jim, our daughter is getting married, and she would like to ensure the fact that you're going to be able to make it. So free up your schedule. It's in a year." She called me a year in advance to tell me. I said, well, I got to think about what to get her. You know, maybe we'll give her a trip somewhere, maybe a honeymoon we'll take her. She goes, one request, just one request. We'd like you to supply her with some chocolate. Slam dunk, not a problem. Happy to do it. Just give me the dates and we'll take care of it. I just got the order before I left. It's for 4 pieces per guest, and there's 1,000 guests. It would have been cheaper and easier for me to give her 7 days in Cancun than it will be for me to make all this chocolate. Sometimes you got to ask more questions. Sometimes you got to listen. So as we start this, I want to kind of get your head around the fact that we need to do the math. And here's the simplicity of the math. Almost every problem you have, almost every problem I have, can be solved with simple math. You break it into pieces, and you decide whether you need to remove a piece, that's subtraction, add more of the same thing, that's addition, divide it or multiply it. The math is very, very simple because 99% of all solutions to all problems are the reordering of the very components that make up the problem. When I had to lose weight, what's the answer? Duh, eat less. Anybody in this room knows that that's the secret to losing weight. Eat less. But you also have to exercise more. That's the plus. Then you have to divide up your portions as to what time of day you're going to eat them, and you've got to subtract all of those empty calories. How did I get heavy? I'd skip breakfast, have almost no lunch, and by 3 o'clock I was eating the leg off my desk. And that would look like a bag of potato chips or pretzels or whatever snack food I can find. If you apply simple math to every problem, come up with the components, break them into pieces, and look at the simple add, subtract, multiply, and divide, I assure you that you will come up with a workable solution to almost every problem. But I know that you guys have a job that eats your brain. It is all-consuming. If you're a meeting planner, you're an event planner, you're an incentive planner, you have lots and lots of moving parts. Well, from my standpoint, the moving parts are really somewhat irrelevant. Is that her microphone? Remember I said we should talk about the aha moments. The aha moment is this. I want everybody to focus on this that I'm about to say. How you think is as important as what you think. I get up in the morning and on my bathroom mirror I have a little sticky that says, what if, what's next, what's possible, why not? And I ask myself that every day. When I was starting to lose weight, I set a goal. I wanted an Armani suit. Why? Because Armani doesn't make big and tall. So it was self-serving. I know that if I can get into that suit, I've lost weight. So I went to the Armani store and I put it on, and for those of you that have ever seen a real Armani suit on a real person, I am not that person. It is designed for tall, skinny Italian people with no shoulders, and the shoulders are the same size as their hips. And the salesman's looking at me and says, I don't think it's working. I said, I can tell you it's not working. I look like an Italian pimp. He takes the suit off, and the manager comes over and he says, that'd never work for anybody that's got a big shoulders. He says, try this on. Try it on the suit. I mean smooth. Smooth. And this gorgeous blonde goes walking by and she goes, sharp. Really sharp. And she keeps on walking. I like this suit. I like this. Is this the SKU number? Is this the inventory number? No, sir, that's the price. Let me see if I get this correctly. $5,995. He goes, that's correct. It's a Brioni. I said, it's nice. And I started taking it off. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not spending $6,000 for a suit unless it comes with a car. I said, what do you wear with a $6,000 suit? Now you got to get a $500 tie, you got to get a $15,000 watch, you got to get an $800 pair of shoes, this is not just the suit, this is everything that goes with it. He says, you know, that's my problem. I said, what is the problem? He goes, everybody loves the suit, nobody likes the price. Really? That's a big problem for you? Yes, it is. You know what I do? No. I come up with solutions. So let me make a proposal. How many suits would I have to sell for you to get my suit on trade, on barter, for free? 8 suits. I said, done deal. So I created an ad showing a very tall, lean gentleman leaning up against a sports car. It happened to be a McLaren that most people wouldn't recognize. And the ad said, test drive a Brioni. People came in looking for the car. But think about it, the guy coming in looking for the car is also probably the same guy that can afford the suit. And he's brought his significant other, his wife, and we tried on the suit. And the test drive idea was, take the suit home for 30 days. We're going to tailor it for you, and if you bring it back within 30 days, there's no charge. But if you keep it, we're going to run your credit card. That weekend, we sold 15 suits. And I discovered that the $6,000 Brioni that I had was the starter suit. Brioni suits go to $55,000. And I said, for $55,000, this should be made of gold. He goes, it is. It has gold thread. I said, there cannot be enough gold thread in that suit to be worth $55,000. Who do you sell it to? Well, Steve Wynn has one, Donald Trump has one. I said, okay, I get it. Not for me. He said, well, you did so well, I want to do this barter deal with you again. You can have another Brioni. I said, no, you don't understand. This is the Brioni. It will have its own sarcophagus. I will figure out what tie, what shirt, what couplings I wear, and that will be what I wear when I'm on the dais with Bill Clinton, with whomever. And the first time I wore that suit, I was on the dais with General Colin Powell. And I'm in the green room, and General Colin Powell comes in, and I started to shake his hand, and he reaches over and rubs his hand up and down the lapel of the suit, and he goes, nice threads. General Colin Powell likes my suit. This is like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. This suit is never going to be worn anywhere but with people like General Colin Powell. And he says, where'd you get that suit? And I started telling him, and we had 45 minutes of Jim. I said, call me Jim. He says, you can call me General. I said, Jim, and I had the conversation about the suit. Now, I tell you this story because you have to listen to your voice. You have to be willing to take these risks. I would have never had that conversation with General Colin Powell had I not been wearing the Brioni. Now, I recently gave a talk to the Cremation Association in North America, and I told the suit story, and somebody came up and said, Seth, what about the suit? I said, what do you mean the suit? He says, are you going to be buried in that suit? And I said, absolutely. He goes, why? I said, I'm going to put a note in the pocket that says, he did take it with him. Ladies and gentlemen, your clients don't care what you did for them yesterday. They don't care what you did for them today. They care about their future. And if your solutions are not focused on their future, they don't care. Look, as a speaker, the first thing that someone calls up is Jim available on this date, and how much does he charge? My answer is, Jim is not available on that date without checking with his secretary, because she books everything and he's very busy. And number two, what's your budget? We should be somewhere, no, Jim, just tell us what you charge. I said, so you're telling me that price is going to be a very big determining factor? Yes, we are. Fine, it's $1. Dead silent. It's $1. Really? Yes. $1. You don't seem pleased with that. $1? That's all you're worth? Oh, you didn't ask what I was worth. I'm worth $1 million because I bring big ideas to the organization. I help people solve problems. Well, we could never afford $1 million. I said, well, you're saying that I'm worth more than $1 but less than $1 million. Is that correct? She goes, yes. I said, see the progress we've made? So if I tell you my fee, it's really a bargain. The same thing happens with everybody in this room. You get so fixated on price, you are your own worst enemy. Stop it. Stop the stupid stuff today and don't talk about price, but talk about the value that you bring, the solutions you provide, and why you are the only person that can do what you do. Period. And then price is no longer an issue. I don't want you to follow the crowd. I want you to remain individual. I think it's time to shift your thinking away from price. Well, people say, well, I'm very knowledgeable. I've been in the industry 35 years. Who cares? When Joanne read my resume and she goes, Jim did this and Jim did that, and people are going back on, oh, how does that benefit me? I don't care. Did Jim bring me some chocolate? Is Jim going to help me raise money for my organization? No. Everybody today is self-centered. Talk about what you can do for them, and they'll listen. Talk about who you are and how you got to where you're at. Nobody cares. And it's a great time to be innovative. I mean, think about the fact that I got a $6,000 suit for thinking. To me, that was a good deal. Why wouldn't I take the second one? Because I held that suit out in its own platform. I did do more work for them. I did get other clothes, but I still only have one Brioni. So now, sometimes when I get an inquiry, I will say, this is a Brioni-worthy event, because I'm on the platform with someone famous, or I'm in front of an audience that I deem very, very necessary for my growth. And I can tell you that that Brioni does not come out very often. It holds a very special place. And I like to make the traditionalists in an organization squirm. I like to make people think differently. And you know, you talk about out of the box, I talk about inside the box. Walk with me on this one. If I give you a present and it's gift wrapped, and I hand it to you, do you have any idea what's inside the box? Of course not. Then why do we apply that same thing to problems? Think outside the box. If you're outside the box, you have no idea what the problem is. You have no idea what the components are that make up the problem. You have no way to come up with a solution. So stop thinking outside the box and get inside the box. Understand what's going on in your world and what is going to be the proper solution, and bring you and your client the greatest benefit. And you've got to remember that culture eats strategy all day long. The difference between strategy and tactics is very simple. Strategy is from the neck up. Tactics is from the neck down. When you're thinking about a strategy, you still got to figure out how to execute it. And if the culture doesn't want you to do that, then you have to focus on how to deal with the culture. Now today we're all inundated with all of these things going on in our lives. And we're supposed to come up with clever solutions to all of them. We can't do it. You've got to start thinking differently in how you approach these problems, and it's really simple. Number one, you start to manage your time better. And when you start managing your time better, you start to look at things a little differently, and you do less. Ladies and gentlemen, less is always better. Less is always more. Let me show you some examples. If you do less, instead you do better. Instead of have less, have better. As I get older, I find I'm getting rid of things instead of accumulating things. John was talking about my wine cellar. I don't drink wine anymore. I'm paring down the wine cellar. I like to speak less but speak better. I've become much more choosy on who I will do a speech for. I have to be engaged with the audience. I have to be able to see where the audience is going to be able to take it. Love less versus love better. All of us want to be loved better, and all of us want to be better. Make that commitment today to be better. I want you to stay cool, but at the same time, I want you to do fewer things. Don't panic when you have something go wrong. Embrace the accident and learn how to deal with it. The first time I did the falling off the stage bit, I fell flat on my face. The audience was aghast. I got up, I dusted myself off, and I said, "See how that works? You leap and the net will appear." And I got a big applause. I've decided not to fall on my face anymore, because the next day my head was all swollen and my nose was hurting, It was a little bit too dramatic for me, but sometimes the little leap gets your attention. I play by my own rules, and you should do the same thing. I don't believe in RFPs. An RFP is a waste of time. It is duck hunting with a machine gun. People are sending out RFPs because they don't value your time. And you obviously don't value your time if you're filling them out. And I hear people in the back going, yeah, that's the only way we get business. If the only way you're getting business is by responding to RFPs, then do something differently. You can't make any money being the low-cost provider, because that's what RFPs want. They want the greatest amount of service for the least amount of money. Stop it. Don't reduce your prices. I stopped reducing my prices the moment somebody paid me $1 more than the next person or event. When I first started speaking, I was happy to speak for free. Now I'm able to say, and by the way, if it's over 4 hours, I need a first-class ticket. And if the audience size is this, because I have built a reputation. The same thing happens when I'm doing meetings and events. I will turn down clients if they don't have a big enough budget, if the objectives aren't clearly stated, if the winners aren't engaged in earning the prize. Why do I want to be the excuse for failure? I want to be on the winning team, not the losing team. Here's the equation for you. For those of you that are actually still using pen and paper, put it away. Put this in your notebook. Put this in your phone. If you take this formula and you divide your RFP into your ROI, you get ZIP. How does that work? Well, we filled out 100 RFPs. They cost us $1,000 each. That's $100,000. How many of those did you win? 3. Did you make $100,000 net dollars out of those 2? Well, no, Jim, we made $60,000. Really? So you spent $40,000 in a year of your life filling out 98 RFPs that didn't bring you any money, and the 2 that you won didn't bring you enough to break even. Gee, Jim, when you say it that way, we shouldn't be doing this. Hello? That's exactly what I'm saying. You need to be showing people that you've got wisdom. People will pay for wisdom. They won't pay for knowledge. If you want knowledge on how to be a brain surgeon, go on the internet. If you're smart enough, you won't perform the brain surgery yourself. Knowledge comes from the internet and books, and it's free. Wisdom comes from experience. Start selling and leveraging your experience. Failure is the key to success. Everybody says, well, what if we're wrong? So what? As long as you don't do it more than once. If you learn from failure, then you become more successful. And you got to find time to stop the stupid stuff. Somebody said, well, why don't you tell people if you're available when they call in for the calendar? Because then it doesn't look like I'm busy. I want them to see scarcity. I want them to see that other people have already booked me. So even if the month of June was entirely empty and somebody called and said, we want you on June 10th, I have to get back to them. I will never give them that answer over the phone. Why? It then engages us in a conversation. You need to be different. You need to remember that slowing down isn't the answer. The answer is speeding up, but speeding up on those things you're focused on, not on everything. You want to look at other industries. I am always amazed that somebody could take a product that's been around for 100 years, like a vacuum cleaner, and turn it into an industry that literally tipped things over. Look what Apple did when they started introducing iPad, iPhone. And look what's happened to Apple now that Steve Jobs has passed. Apple is not keeping pace with Samsung. Apple is going to rely on the fact that you and I, if we're Apple owners, we love our product. PC products are tools. Apple products we have an emotional attachment with. But at some point, that emotional attachment gives way to the technological advances. And if Apple doesn't keep up, they're going to start to lose market share. Look at how cool it is that people are now wearing big, expensive headphones like Dr. Beats because it's so cool to be seen wearing that product. Change your products and services that people want to be recognized with you. And when you start looking at your promises, fix what's broken. Understand that if you've broken a promise to a client, it is very difficult to repair. I have a very, very simple rule in business. The client is always right. They may be misinformed, they may be stupid, they may be unreasonable, but the client is always right. And we're going to make them happy, and we're going to charge them for it. What most people forget is making clients happy does not mean you have to lose margin. Whenever we do a billing for a client, we all get together and we have what we call the grievance factor. Was this client a pain in the you-know-what? Add 20%. Let's see what happens. The airlines do it to us. How many people get on an airplane without a bag? Nobody. But the airlines last year got $3.8 billion in luggage fees. Do you not get annoyed that they're charging you for the first bag? I know I do. Who gets on a plane without a piece of luggage? For those people that are in their hotel business, guess what? I think I'm entitled to have free internet. So here's what you do. Put up a sign that says internet is $14.95, but give it to me because I came on the third Thursday of the eternal equinox when the sun was shining. Whatever it is, come up with a reason to give it to me. Now, because the internet had a price, I have value, as opposed to free internet. Start asking better questions. Frame them like, how might we do something? What do we have to wait for? Here's 3 questions for you owners, for you decision makers. What are my highest value activities? Otherwise, I'm just wasting time. I don't answer my phone. I can be sitting next to the phone, I don't answer it. That's what caller ID is for. I'm too busy to answer the phone, and I don't want to be interrupted. Whatever that call is, they're going to interrupt my train of thought, my business, so they can go into voicemail, and then I'll call them back. Now, sometimes I call them back within 30 seconds. But remember, I didn't stop what I was doing to answer the phone. Well, Jim, you got a big ego. No, I'm very driven to being productive during my time. And I don't like interruptions. And what about another question? What can I and only I do, if done well, will make a difference for my client? That's a great question. How many of you go on a trip with a client and you don't charge extra for you to be there? Look, if you just want a trip director, I don't mean to say just a trip director, but as opposed to the owner of the company. Does Bill Merritt go on every trip that Merritt runs? Of course not. But I would imagine that if General Motors, his biggest client, or Bank of America, his biggest client, said, we'd like to have him there, they factor in his travel time, and he shows up. The same thing happens when you're sitting by yourself and you start to say, what is the valuable use of my time right now? I notice some of you are taking notes, some of you are taking pictures. I'm going to give you a QR code, I'm going to give you a link so that you can get this entire presentation. So that you're open to new ideas, I want you to think about your teams, your experiences, and your results. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the meaningful memory business. We provide experiences, period. End of conversation. You can build a great hotel and have a staff that's not responsive. You can have a great staff and an okay hotel, and believe me, the great staff will win hands down. People remember the interaction much more than they remember the physicality. Now, I don't mean to say that you don't get an ooh and an aha when you walk into a place like this or at any of our sponsoring hotels. They're fantastic. But if the staff can't carry that message forward and wow me and aha me from the moment I walk in to the moment I leave, that continues to drop down. We stayed at a hotel here that did not have a TV guide. Didn't have a TV guide. I couldn't figure out what channel was what channel. And I'm talking to the TV. I wanted to see what was going on with the South African fella that was charged with killing his girlfriend. Turns out they're on vacation for 2 weeks. I mean, here's a murder trial, and they're taking off 2 weeks on vacation. I find that totally unreasonable. I don't think that's fair to him. But in the meantime, I spent 10 minutes trying to find CNN or anybody that could give me an update. Use little ideas to develop bigger ones. Start to steal ideas from other companies, other businesses. See what works. And once you start doing this, remember that technology has changed everything. You don't believe me? Nobody uses an iPod anymore. They use Spotify. And if you still had your own music list, you've downloaded it to your phone or your iPad. But you don't see people on planes typically walking around with an iPod any longer. You don't see people in meetings taking notes using pen and paper. No, we have outgrown that. Now we start to do everything on an iPad. Are you using your iPad for check-ins? Are you using your iPad to order your drinks at the bar? Are you using your iPad to contact the girl at the third table over to see if you can buy her a drink? We have stopped using the old tools and need to rethink that. If I send somebody a handwritten thank you note, I get a phone call. Jim, this is the first handwritten thank you note I've gotten in the last 15 years. When I travel, I bring thank you notes with me and I leave them for the people that have hosted me. And you can't imagine what happens the next time I come back. Oh, Mr. Feldman, the sales manager wanted to let you know that you've been upgraded to the presidential suite because she remembers when you were here 6 months ago, you were the only person that sent her a handwritten thank you note, and she just wanted to show how much she appreciated it. Hello? What have I learned? I've learned that people still want touchy-feely personal relationships. I want you to engage technology. Ready for this one? This is scary. By 2015, 2.8 zettabytes. I didn't know what that was. It happens to be 2.8 trillion gigabytes. I didn't know what that was. Translates into 26,000 years of every U.S. citizen doing 6 tweets per day for 26,000 years. That's not going to change. It's only going to get bigger. And if you're not mining your data, you are losing out on an amazing resource. Are you creating hashtags for every meeting and using them? You'll see that I put up hashtags so that those people that want to Facebook or tweet or anything else can do it right from the platform. There it is. There's my QR code. That's how you do something. So anybody that's tweeting, go ahead and tweet something right now. Whatever it is, good, bad, or otherwise. What did I just do? I've asked everybody to say something about me that's now going to go out to the World Wide Web, and I happen to have a lot of followers, and those followers are going to go, oh, there's Jim working again. This time he's in Cancun. Boo-hoo. It helps with building your brand. It helps building with everything else. Look, how many of us have been on that flight with that guy? So KLM did something I find mind-boggling. You now can go into KLM and put in your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and other people can now link up with you so they sit next to you on the plane. That's either going to raise stalking to a new level, or that's going to give KLM a competitive advantage for people that want to meet other people on an 8-hour flight. I think the jury's still out on that one. But I just find it fascinating that you can now go in and marry yourself up to somebody because of the Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., etc. Look, life is about choices. For those of you that have cable TV and you've got 300 channels, have you ever been in a room where a man and a woman have one remote control? The guy is going like this and the woman is ready to kill him. Just take one station and sit on. Honey, they're in commercial. I can watch 3 more things. No, just settle on one thing. On the other hand, the women find the Housewives of New York or the Kardashians or whatever, and that's it. Nothing else can come on TV until we're done watching that. I would like for you to tweet to me, if you would, what is it that the Kardashians do for a living? What do they bring to the table? I haven't figured it out, but they're making a lot of money doing whatever it is, and I want to do that. At the end of the day, the Kardashians have some of the biggest following on the planet, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why. And Bruce Jenner, anybody ever seen what's happening to our decathlon winner? He's going through, I think it's fair to say, a change. He's going through shifts. I got people over here laughing that have seen this. Go look for yourself. I can't even explain it. 73% of men and 63% of women check their phone every single hour. Are you using that in a meeting? Remember in a meeting where you used to say, please turn off your cell phones? Now you say in a meeting, please turn on your cell phone so you can tweet about me. The truth is you don't know what they're talking about, but you can't discourage them from using all the apps. And by the way, they reached the 1 million app number on Apple. 1 million apps. And the people that are making all the money are people between 12 and 21. Those kids sit in their back room and they go, well, I'm going to give it away for free, but I'm going to charge for the upgrade. And by the way, I got a check today for $850,000. I'm working my butt off. These kids are sitting in a room playing games, making more money than I've ever heard of. And when I really realized how far behind I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with someone, and he says, no, don't pick that up, pick up the sword because the dragon's got. I said, how do you know that? Duh, it's a program. I thought it was a game. If you play it enough, you learn what the program is. Look, mobile, social, and search are more important than a website. Everybody talks about a website. You can't keep up with Google. You can't keep up with the analytics. Spend more time on Facebook, LinkedIn. I hired somebody to help me with my LinkedIn page. We spent an afternoon one Saturday. She fixed it up. And by Monday, I had 800 new followers. And she said to me, if you spend 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn, you'll become one of the top LinkedIn people within 6 months. 30 minutes a day. And I've been doing it. And it keeps growing organically. So you always look around for other ideas. I'm somebody that looks at ideas everywhere I go. Why is somebody doing this? Why is somebody doing that? What did I learn from it? Last night, I thought the dinner presentation was spectacular. What was missing for me was a menu. I didn't know what I was eating. And I'm not trying to be critical. I kept asking the waiter, what's this? I said, what kind of fish is this? He goes, fresh. Good enough for me. Let's move on. That little tiny thing would have made, for me, just me, a huge difference in how I enjoyed the meal. And I am sure that somebody thought, no, these are meeting planners. They know they don't want to see another menu, etc. I'm just saying sometimes we overlook the basics. Not being critical, I just want you to see how I think and how I process. I want you to leverage your capital. Now, everybody thinks of capital as money. No, capital is social capital, relationship capital, cultural capital. How are we going to leverage that and get the best use of our time? It's always been, for me, people, process, products. If you ever watch The Profit on TV or you watch Shark Tank, they're always talking about people, process, profit, and now it's technology. How is technology going to change? I got a new app from Shark Tank called Cyclorama. You put it on your iPhone, you set your iPhone on a hard surface, and it turns your phone around 360 degrees while taking pictures. Totally the coolest thing you've ever seen. What happens is the phones vibrate, and that's how it actually turns the phone around. Cyclorama, Cyclomatic. I go onto the App Store every day for at least 5 minutes and put up some silly thing like Spanish language, and suddenly an app shows up with all the Spanish phrases that I need that I can put on my phone, and I can actually put in my earpiece and have the phone tell me what to say when I'm going to try to speak Spanish. And suddenly I sound reasonably intelligent, so I'm not saying now buenas noches, but I'm saying buenas tardes. See? Did you have that in there? Did you know? See? The point to all of this is use the technology, drive for change, innovate for growth, and lead smarter. And ask yourself, what does my client need? What does my client want? What does my client value? And what does my client expect? And underneath you say, and what can I charge for all of that? If you go into a doctor and the doctor says, I can cure baldness. Really? Foolproof? Yes. Painless? Yes. Don't care what it costs. My big fear is dentists. I have a real fear of dentists. I go to a dentist that has a sign that says, we cater to cowards. And when I go in there and I say, it hurts right here, he says, it's $50. Now, did you want that to hurt? No. Well, then you need Novocaine. That's $50. Now we're at $100. I know you don't like the needles. Did you want the needle to hurt when I... No. Well, that's $25 for the topical. Now we're at $125. He says, and I know you like Molly, that cute nurse. He goes, that's another $25. So for $150, my painless cavity filling didn't have any price consideration, but my comfort was at stake. What do I value? I don't like to hurt. I'm a chicken. When I go in and get a blood draw, I won't let them put the Band-Aid on because it hurts so much to take the Band-Aid off my hairy arm. That's worse than anything else. And look at me, well, don't you need that? No, I've been down that path. You're not putting a Band-Aid on me. You emphasize what works and you build on it. I see these people that say, well, we're a meeting planner, we're an event planner, we're a wedding planner, we're an incentive house, we're an ARC appointed this. And I go, really, what is your business? Well, we do all those things. You cannot do all those things. Why? Because people don't identify with it. Pick one thing and do it better than anyone else, and then become so good at what you do, you're the only one that they would hire to do it. I decided I would create yummy. That's how I got into chocolates. This is yummy. When I started creating chocolates, I said, what's going to make it different? What's going to make the taste different? So I started putting things like chipotle into it. I started finding a Mexican spice called Tajín. I started playing with different combinations. So like I make a root beer ginger chocolate. I make a butterscotch peanut butter killer chocolate. I make a Snickers bar chocolate. And I don't eat any of it. I taste it one time to see how it's doing, and then I'm done. Why? Because I get to play with the chocolate. It's like doing mud pies. And that gets rid of my interest in eating. So for 110 years, there was this little company that put tuna in a can. For 110 years, it was always the same. And then one day they realized that you couldn't open the can without a can opener, so they decided to make a pop top. Didn't change their business at all. Basically the same thing. I don't need my can opener, I can pop it. But then they looked at what they were doing for NASA, which was freeze drying their food and vacuum packing it, and they decided they would put their tuna into pouches. Walk with me here. Same product, same cost, different packaging. Brought them $200 million in new revenue. How do you apply that to your business? How do you break down your business? Do you do cost plus? Do you bundle? Do you charge for your time? I basically will say to somebody, I need to make X per day, and whether you're sending one person or 50 people, I still need to make the X. Now I realize that if you're sending a few people, it's going to cost you more per head, but I'm really good at what I do, take it or leave it. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they leave it. If you can't afford me, move on to something else. Not everybody can go to the high end, not everybody can drive a Ferrari, not everybody can drink high-end booze. That's why there's so many different products. Decide what your niche is and stick to it. Look at the changing demographics. Become familiar with innovation as other people are applying it. Start to realize, instead of thinking about yourself, think about your clients. And start realizing that the more ideas you come up with, the better off you're going to be. Don't do it the old way, do it the new way. Don't just get ready, get going. And become the voice. Become the voice of our industry. Come back from a meeting like this with 3 ideas of things they wouldn't know on their own. And rethink your expertise. As Einstein said, it should be simple, but not simpler. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Ladies and gentlemen, if we were going to talk about the truth, and we were interviewing one of our clients, what would our clients say on the witness stand about what we were doing for them? The truth is this.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Son, we live in a world that requires revenue, gross profits. Those revenues must be driven by someone. Who's going to do it? You? You in operations? We have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You scoff at sales and marketing, and you curse our incentives. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what we know. That while current expenses are too high, they will drive new sales. And that our efforts, while resented and misunderstood by you, drives revenue. You don't want to know the truth because down in places you don't talk about at staff meetings. You want us on that sale. You need us on that sale. We use words like dividends, returns, yields. We use these words as a backbone of time spent negotiating something. Use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain ourselves to people who rise and sleep under the very blanket of income we provide. and then question the manner in which we provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up the phone and start cold calling. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to.
Did you expense the golf outing?
When you take it from the perspective of the client and you look at your bottom line differently, sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes you have to turn down business. Sometimes you have to play by your own rules. And the rules should be very simple. You want to make it, you want to master it, and you want to make it matter to your client. And you do that by appreciating the best of what is. That's why we're here today. You're looking at some of the best properties in the world. You're looking at some of the best facilities that you could ever use. How are you going to discover them and leverage that into your toolbox for your clients? Are you going to dream about what could be, or are you going to be the dream maker and deliver what could be? And if you're going to master it, you've got to design it and determine what it should be. I always tell my staff we need to concentrate on Plan B. Plan B is when things go wrong. Plan B is the difference between somebody that's got wisdom and somebody that's got knowledge. Plan B is where you distinguish yourself from being one of the choices to the only choice. Plan B is really where the money is. And when that money comes through, then you can create what will be. You see me use a couple of video clips. I went to the movie studios to rent them, and it became a total impossible journey. How many people in the room, how many minutes, etc. And I ultimately started getting business from some of the movie studios. And in one of the meetings, I'd said to the president at the time, Sherry Lansing, I got this problem. I really would like to use movie clips in some of my presentations, but I can't get permission. She goes, oh, well, you just need to go to the Motion Picture Licensing Corporation. Hello? How come nobody else knows about this? Well, they've been around forever. They represent all the studios, all the TV makers, etc. See if you can make a deal with them. So I met with Sal, who is the president, and I said, meeting planners, speakers, etc. would love to do this if it's affordable. And he and I spent 2 years working out license agreements that are affordable. If you needed to use movie clips for a half a dozen times in the following year, it's less than $600. Simple, about $100. Why are they doing it? Because they would rather have you licensed and be legal than to have you take copyrighted material. Now, we all know copyrighted material. You can't use music, that's copyrighted, etc. So once I started doing that, I started applying that to other businesses. I had a meeting with Google. Google was telling me how they're going to analyze big data. Big data gets accumulated and they're going to process all this data. You saw big data. They use zettabytes and numbers I can't even fathom. And I said to them, how are you going to charge for it? And the fellow looked at me and he said, what do you mean? I said, how are you going to charge for it? I don't understand the question. Which part of the question don't you understand? You're going to mine this data and then you're going to charge me for it. We haven't really thought about that. Really, you spent all this time figuring out how you're going to search the data, but you don't know how you're going to charge for it. That's right. That's a different department. Well, now there's a disconnect between the services provided and the fees that are going to be charged. Now here comes, in my mind, the tough part. By the way, to have Google analyze your data, you have to upload your data to Google. Hello, do you want Google to have your confidential data? Oh, we'll sign non-disclosure agreements, etc. All of the information from Hyatt or Marriott or Delta or United goes to Google, and Google is going to be good guys and not use it for something else. I think that's going to be the biggest problem. When you start looking from the perspective of the customer instead of yourself, it makes a difference. You can inspire, you can involve, you can instill, you can innovate, and you can make a difference. Those F words should mean follow me. I'm a leader. Don't have fear. Join me. Be with me. Because the value of a big idea comes in using it. Use some of these ideas I've given to you today, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to forecast the consequences of either doing it or not doing it while maintaining your ability to stay focused on your long-term profitability. I typically don't put a lot of copy on my PowerPoint, but this is one of those things that if you walk out of here and you say, that's the soundbite, that's the aha moment, then I've accomplished a great deal, because now you're forecasting and you're focusing, and those become your new F word. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a hierarchy of fear, and I hope that I have dispelled that today. If you do this, you'll be more successful. If you have a positive experience, it fuels the desire to do more and everything in between. I'd like to get everybody on the same song sheet. I'd like everybody to understand that if you're a minion in any business, you have a boss. And even if you own your own business, you have a boss, and that boss is your client. Kiss your clients. And that means keep it simple. So, now that we've all had a little something to eat, we've had our dessert, I want us all to get on the same page by asking ourselves, how will you use the F word on your journey to bright ideas? And I think to do that, we should have a company song. And the words of the song are banana. So feel free to jump right in with my friends, the Minions. Ready? Turn up. Come on! Second verse.